Hey everyone, this is David. Welcome back behind the velvet rope. Let's just get right into it today because we are joined by the one, the only Mr. Wells Adams.
Is this when like sound effects happen? Like, "Brr, brr, brr."
This is if we had sound effects here, that's what the sound effects would be.
All right, cool,
But
cool.
we opted against the sound effects. It's so funny. I have like some crossover podcasts I'm on, and there's one of them that always has sound effects, and my listeners always like, "Do you like those sound effects that other podcast does?" I'm like, "No, I actually don't, by the way." But some
Funny
people
because
like them.
my background is in radio, and so I lived like the first half of like my entertainment career with like a soundboard and music beds and all the, the that's your blood, pew, 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 pew. Turn it on and rip the knob, all that stuff. And so when I started the podcast that I do now with Brandi Cyrus, I was like, listen, the only thing that I want to have on this show is zero production. I want no music. I want no sounds. I want no effects. And she was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't care. And it makes my life easier because I edit the whole thing, so I don't have to put any of that stuff in there. So I appreciate no intro sound effects.
Well, I edit all this too now, and I get it. It's just like I don't know. I think people like that. That's what a podcast is, right? Sometimes we're buttoned up, and sometimes it just all falls apart in real time.
For sure.
Well, when you first appeared back in 2016 on The Bachelor, on The Bachelorette, did you ever think it would lead to, all this? You have your podcast. It's only 6 years later, but life has changed a lot, right?
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. Honestly, the reason why, well, I did it for a lot of reasons. The first reason why I did it was I like recently gotten dumped and cheated on, and I was just like, I don't know, who cares? Let's go do this thing. And the other reason why I originally did it was it's kind of a bit I used to do on my radio show. I had a morning show in Nashville, and I would kind of go on bad auditions and like on air the day before, like go over my lines, never really intending to get the part, but it was just kind of a good bit for the next day when I inevitably did not get the Shinette paper plate commercial or the Meow Mix commercial, and then I was inconsolable. And it was like a kind of a stupid bit. So when the Bachelor thing came around, I was like, well, this is what that's going to be. And I think me going into it like goofing around and not really caring was like the best thing ever. They loved like the energy that I brought, and then they cast me on the show. And I really didn't know what to expect. I was hoping for the best, but expecting nothing, I suppose. I remember thinking, well, if nothing else, I'll always have like a really funny story to tell at dinner parties, or like every time The Bachelor's on TV, I'll be able to talk about it on my radio show. Like that was kind of like the extent that I thought I was going to get out of this whole thing. And then yeah, obviously it's grown into something much more than I ever expected. And I remember talking to Chris Harrison, who ended up becoming a really close friend of mine, because we ended up working a lot together in Paradise. And he was like, "Yeah, the trick of the whole thing is that don't let this whole experience in this show define you, but let it be." A way to enhance what you already do and love. And I took that to heart, and I never really kind of left the thing that I, did in the first place, which was I was a host of sorts. I was a morning show host and an afternoon drive host. And, I used to do a lot of like improv stuff and stage work and stuff. And I just liked doing that stuff. And it's true, like it was a thing that just was able to enhance all the things that I love to do prior to. So yeah, my life has gotten a lot different and it's a lot weirder, but um, it's still to me is the same. It's just a lot more eyeballs are on me now, I suppose.
That makes a lot of sense. Is it true that your brother was supposed to be in the show and he just started dating someone, and that's kind of how you got involved with these people?
Yeah, my oldest brother Brett, who's like the good looking one in the family, he was like a model and an actor in Los Angeles, and yeah, like he got approached by a casting director at a bar in LA, and went through the entire process, and then turned it down. And like 8 years later, he was like still friends with the casting director and told her to hit me up, and the rest is history. And he, to this day, he'll be like, "This is bullshit. I can't believe that I." He's like, "Man, my life would be so much different, and if I had done this and instead of you."
Does he ask you for a percentage of all your earnings?
No, but he does reap the benefits of a cushy life now in Los Angeles, because we go on a lot of vacations, and we've got kind of a small nucleus of people that we kind of travel with, and him and his wife are always with us. So
I love it. Well, when you look back, and you've also had a lot of time on Paradise, like when you look back, just when you were a contestant on Paradise and The Bachelorette, like what stands out as like the highs for you just from that experience?
I mean, it seems like when I was on The Bachelor, that seems like a different life ago. There were, I guess, the highs for the show when I look back. I mean, doing Chad's eulogy with his protein powder was, to me, was really funny. I thought that was a great like moment for me. I remember like production asking me, they were like, "Listen, it would be really funny if like we had like a funeral for Chad," and I was like, "It'd be really great if we got his protein powder," and I threw it up in the air like it was his ashes, and we spread his ashes around, and they were like, "That's a great idea." And then I started writing this like long eulogy, because I wanted it to be like touching and funny, and I wanted it to be like a real funeral. And they were like, "Idiot, you have a minute and a half of TV that we're going to give you for this, so like just run with it." And I was like, "All right, fine." So I remember I just improv'd it. What was funny is everyone played guitar on my season for some reason. So someone had a guitar, and I was like, "Give me a chord," because I can play guitar too. And so he played like a major key, and I was like, "This is a funeral, dude. Give me A. I need an A minor into a D minor," you know. And so I started playing like really sad stuff, and then I just ripped into this weird eulogy. And I remember looking back, as of all the things that I saw of myself on TV, that was the only time where I was like, "That's me. Everything else is me making sure that I don't look like an idiot." But yeah, that was a really funny moment. A lot of the moments that I look back on are the moments that are on TV. One, either they get cut, because a lot of my stuff gets cut, which is fine because I know my role. That's an important thing to know when you're in Hollywood, I suppose. But it's also like the relationships that I have with everyone that's off camera. Like I said, I came from a radio background, so I was truly a producer and in production and tech really before I was ever a very good host of radio shows. My first job in radio was a board op, which is someone who just like messes with the dials and the knobs at radio stations as a producer. And then I did a lot of stuff like setting up for live bands in the studio and all that kind of stuff. So my true friendships are with like sound. I love sound guys. I really have like a strong bond with sound guys and camera people and camera assistants, who are the hardest working people in showbiz, because they have to carry around so much crap, especially in Paradise where they're sweating. So like those relationships that I have with those people are the ones that like really stick out to me. And then also the work that I do with production in like setting up really funny things that I think like will work on our show. So yeah, like it was a couple years ago. We were trying to figure out a way of figuring out storyline of ridiculous story arcs and stuff, and how to explain it. And I was like walking around Mexico, and I went into like this kids toy store, and there was all these puppets, and I bought all these puppets,